Do you know how to whistle? If you are one of the few people who have mastered that art, congratulations. You might just have what it takes to master one of the deadliest weapons in the galaxy. We're talking about Yondu's iconic Yaka Arrow. Who would have thought a sleek, floating dart could move at the speed of sound and strike the enemy with pinpoint precision? But how does it really work? And why hasn't anyone else been able to wield it quite like Yondu in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe? In today's video, we're taking a deep dive into the anatomy of this legendary weapon. Who knows? Maybe by the end of this, you'll have the knowledge to finally command it. Let's begin. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What is the Yaka Arrow made of, and how does it work? The Yaka Arrow is a masterpiece, forged from one of the rarest and most remarkable metals in the Marvel Universe, Yaka, found only in Centauri 4, which, by the way, is also Yondu's homeworld. Yaka metal is known for its psionic sensitivity, meaning it can respond to specific mental or sonic commands, particularly high-frequency sounds like whistling. You see, the secret sauce behind the uncanny ability to change directions in a fight with perfect accuracy. The arrow's size and structure are also deceptively simple. It is extremely slim, roughly 15 inches long, built for maximum maneuverability, rather than just brute force. In the comics, Yondu carries up to 20 of these arrows with their own specialized single curved bow. But in the MCU, the arrow is mostly seen as a singular weapon that is devastating in the right hands, or rather, the right lips. Yaka reacts to pitch changes and whistle commands, allowing it to twist, curve, or even double back, all without slowing down. But the metal is particularly picky and only responds to individuals who know how to speak its language, which is why the Centaurians are the only known species capable of wielding it. Think of it like remote controlling a drone with your mouth, but way deadlier.
Make this choice.
Does Yondu need any special equipment to use the arrow? To control the Yaka Arrow, Yondu wears a special cybernetic implant, the iconic red fin on his head. It's not just a fancy external gear. This fin acts as a transmitter and receiver, linking his brain to the arrow through psionic signals. Without it, his whistling alone wouldn't be enough to guide the arrow's every move. This setup makes the Yaka Arrow feel more like an extension of Yondu himself, rather than a separate object. In the MCU, we even see the contrast between his smaller original fin and the upgraded one he gets later, which is the larger version. It gives him stronger control and a wider range of movement for the arrow. So while the whistle gives direction, the fin enhances his connection and precision. Long story short, without that fin, the arrow's just a sharp stick, and with it, it's essentially a guided missile with style. How powerful is the Yaka Arrow? Don't let the size fool you though. It might not look flashy, but it's one of the deadliest weapons in the Marvel Universe, with the potential to cause a massacre. Once Yondu whistles, the arrow takes off like a missile at a blinding speed. It can slice through dozens of enemies in seconds, and even change direction mid-air, all without slowing down. It has contributed to one of the many jaw-dropping moments in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, when Yondu clears out an entire ship during the Ravager mutiny, with nothing but this arrow and a tune. Now you may think, what if it breaks when faced with an obstacle? Well, besides maneuvering through narrow spaces, it can easily dodge obstacles and even come back to Yondu when he's done. So yeah, it's pretty much impossible to stop it once it's out there. You can't even outrun the thing. These arrows were more traditional in their use, fired from a curved bow, with each arrow having slightly different functions, depending on pitch and intent. The comic version of Yondu relied more on skill and tactics to use multiple arrows for larger fights, but in the MCU, things got way more refined. Live-action Yondu stripped it down to just one arrow, and that's really all he needed. In all honesty, his single Yaka Arrow is so responsive and lethal that using more would be overkill. What are some notable uses of the Yaka Arrow in combat? The Yaka Arrow is one of those weapons that are not so dependent on what they can do, but rather on how they are used. The Eclecttor Massacre. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Yondu is imprisoned aboard the Eclecttor after being betrayed by the Ravagers. This is where he reclaims the fin and arrow as he walks calmly through the chaos, whistling while the arrow clears a path ahead of him. It's stylish, it's brutal, and it proves why Yondu doesn't need 20 arrows anymore. It is one of the defining moments that made the arrow legendary. The Battle of Xandar. Guardians of the Galaxy 2014. This is where Yondu uses the Yaka Arrow to full effect. After crashing during the Sakaran invasion, he finds himself surrounded by enemy soldiers, but instead of panicking, he calmly whistles, and the arrow darts through the entire platoon, eliminating them instantly. It even returns to him like nothing happened. This same battle also shows how Yondu used the arrow to destroy enemy necrocrafts by cutting through ships. At that point, it didn't even feel like a fight. He commands it like an artist. Another notable scene was Yondu's final sacrifice in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. While it's not a fight scene, this one hits differently, as Yondu saves Peter Quill from Ego's collapsing planet. The arrow is strapped to his belt, and although no longer flying, it still symbolizes his power and legacy. After Yondu's death, Rocket and Peter repair the arrow and pass it on to Kraglin, which in a way keeps Yondu's spirit alive. Throughout the series, Yondu also used the arrow to intimidate adversaries, because people knew what that sound meant, and one whistle was usually all it took to get people to back off. Is controlling the Yaka Arrow easy? Do you really think whistling is all it takes to get a control on the Yaka Arrow? Well, no, not really. It only looks effortless when Yondu is doing it, but this thing is anything but easy to master. It's a skill that Centaurians spend years perfecting. Think of it like learning an incredibly complex musical instrument, combined with controlling a guided missile using nothing but your breath. You have to understand the pitch, tone, rhythm, and even the emotional intent behind each whistle. That's why random people can't make it fly like Yondu does. It's also not purely about the whistle. Centaurians have a special connection to the arrow itself, almost like muscle memory combined with instinct. Yondu himself once said that he doesn't simply control the arrow with thought, but rather feels it. That kind of intuitive control isn't something you can teach in a day or even a year. It takes a certain natural bond with the arrow's psionic sensitivity. Even Kraglin, who inherits Yondu's arrow and fin after his death, struggles to get it right. We see Kraglin accidentally stab Drax while practicing the damn thing. So it's clear that it certainly takes a lot of patience to start using the arrow properly, being an extension of its wielder. Only those who truly understand it can unlock its full potential. But why is Yaka metal so rare? It sounds too good to be true, and that's probably why it's so rare and cannot be something you can just mine and melt. The rarity of Centauri 4 itself also plays into this. It's an isolated planet with limited trade and few outsiders. This makes Yaka metal nearly impossible to find outside its native ecosystem. Extracting Yaka requires precise handling and a deep understanding of its nature, too. Sadly, the knowledge is mostly limited to the Centaurians, even if someone else were to get their hands on it. Without that cultural and technical background, the metal itself would be nearly useless. What makes Yondu's use of the arrow unique? What sets Yondu apart when it comes to wielding the Yaka Arrow is how the weapon naturally responds to him. Someone like you or me would need to concentrate through every move, but Yondu does that with pure intuition. At least that's what he says. It's almost like the arrow moves with his instincts, instead of waiting on detailed commands like a body part. The arrow dances through the air like it knows what he wants before he finishes the whistle. That's the connection between warrior and weapon you don't see often, not even in the MCU. It's something rare, something almost spiritual. That's what made Yondu and his arrow so unforgettable. How was the Yaka Arrow introduced in Marvel lore? The Yaka Arrow's roots go back to Marvel Comics, where it first appeared in 1969 as part of Yondu Udanta's gear in the original Guardians of the Galaxy comic series. But this version of Yondu was very different from what we saw in the MCU. The setup in comics is of an alternate future timeline, where Yondu is a noble warrior from the 31st century, and Earth has been overtaken by the Badoon. He's an honorable hunter from the planet Centauri 4, and his weapon of choice is a curved bow and a quiver full of Yaka arrows. In the comics, the Yaka arrows were traditional looking but unique. His archery skills and connection to nature played a big part in his character's identity, which resembled a futuristic Native American warrior. Now, fast forward to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and things get a serious upgrade when Guardians of the Galaxy 2014 introduced Yondu, played by Michael Rooker. He was no longer a noble space warrior, but a space pirate, someone with a brutal sense of humor and a mysterious, deadly arrow. The MCU took the idea of the sound-sensitive arrow and turned it into a whistle-controlled killing machine. This one also didn't need a bow. It was controlled entirely through Yondu's cybernetic cranial fin implant. With those powers, no wonder he would guide the arrow through multiple targets, clearing entire rooms or ships in a matter of seconds. The MCU's version made the weapon more cinematic and personal. That redesign gave Yondu a signature weapon that set him apart in the crowded Marvel Universe. And as we saw, especially in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it also played into some of the most emotional and unforgettable scenes in the series. So, while the comic version leaned on Yondu's heritage and honor, the movie version amplified his edge and cool factor. Marvelous verdict. And that wraps up our deep dive into the anatomy of Yondu's legendary Yaka Arrow, from its rare Centaurian metal origins to its razor-sharp, whistle-controlled flight path. This weapon is downright poetic in motion, whether slicing through battalions or floating back into Yondu's hand with effortless style. The Yaka Arrow has earned its spot as a unique weapon in the Marvel Universe. The mixture of ancient craftsmanship with futuristic tech proves that sometimes, in a galaxy full of blasters and bombs, a well-aimed arrow still steals the show. So, the next time you see that glowing red streak dart through a battlefield, you know what's coming for you. Let us know what other weapons we should cover next in the comments section. And if you like this breakdown, do leave us a like and hit the subscribe button. See you in the next one.